So the weather today was calling for some soup, and I decided to make some goat foot with beef neck and beef soup. So come watch me make it while I give you a little story about my life. So at the age of 5, my dad had passed away and mommy moved out from my father's side family home to her home where she lived with her mommy and brother. So during that part of my life, we grew up in extreme poverty, and we know we were living in poverty because we were restricted to a lot of things that other persons had. So I completed primary school where she was living, and when I started junior sec, I moved back to my grandmother's house. So I started to live with my grandmother there. I completed my secondary level on that side, and I moved back with mommy when I completed junior sec, and I came back to complete senior secondary. So when I came back to live with mommy, she was an addict by this point because she was drinking when I left, and she became more worse. So I was forced to drop out of school because of financial constraints, and the situation with mommy, it wasn't getting any better. So by this time, I was close to 17 years, and I used to be back and forth by mommy and my grandmother, and there's where I met my children's father. So the worst decision of my life that I have ever made was moving in with him. So when I moved in with him, I was basically a child myself, and I didn't know plenty things and a lot of things that I had to learn, about living with somebody. And I thought to myself that it would have been easy. Here's where the abuse started. I remember getting licks. I don't know what I got licks for. I just got licks, and I decided to leave. He ended up coming back to my mommy and pursuing me to come back home with him. He apologized. He told me that he was sorry and that he wouldn't do it again. And obviously, I was dotish and I was young that time, and I did forgive him, and I ended up going back with him. About 2 weeks after that, it happened again, and I ended up leaving again. And I came back to mommy, and he did the same exact thing that he did the first time, and I ended up going back. By this time, I was 3 months into the relationship, and I had already been working. And trust me, that was a big red flag because he never liked to work from the starting up that I met him. So I decided that I was going to get a job to help us out. So when I received that third beating, I decided to leave. So I informed my boss that I weren't coming back, and I packed up all my clothes and I waited for him to leave, and then I bust out. When I left with everything, so I weren't coming back. And I remember the drive coming from Bodispain to Shogunas, where I was going to mommy, and I was really sick. And I tried to figure out, why I'm feeling so sick. I'm feeling upset. I had to end up stopping and vomit. That's to tell you how sick I was. So I didn't really take it on until a couple days after, when mommy realized that I was constantly feeling sick when she cooked and I smelled the food. And there's where she told me to try to get a pregnancy test done. And I remember calling and I told him that I was feeling sick and he needed to come and meet me so that we could do a pregnancy test together. So this was the hardest decision of my life when I met with him, because I know that I weren't coming back. And when I got that pregnancy test results, my heart fell to the floor because I didn't want to go back there. And I remember coming back home to mommy and I asked her if I could stay with her. And she said no. She said, you cannot stay with me because that's an extra responsibility and I have to go back home there. So seeing that my foolish decision put me in the position that I was in, I made the decision to go back. So when I came back, I know I was coming back for good. And this man showed no sort of concern. He didn't care. He had no sympathy towards me being pregnant. And trust me, I was 2 months pregnant and I did not know anything. I did not know until I traveled the morning sickness kicking one time. So this is where the doubt came in him. So he was claiming that the child wasn't his own, and his mommy told him that that wasn't his child and to send me back to my mommy because I bring another man child into his home. So when I came back, I went back out to work and I was completely sick because here's where morning sickness had set in already. So stay tuned for part 2 of this story. I know I left all the guys hanging, right? But hope you guys enjoyed my video and my little story. See you guys in my next video as usual.